I just started a class yesterday. Wouldn't you know the world's falling apart again? Typical.
Brian Little.
Japan.
Hey everyone, it's Pastor Robbie, and it's another Sunday video. Today is the first Sunday of the season of the Epiphany, in which Revelation is a highlight of everything that we do. A lot of churches are going to spend today like reading and thinking about the baptism of Jesus, but we're doing something different. We're going back, all the way back to the beginning. During this season, we're in the Old Testament, and we're looking at beginnings and transformations. In the stories that we're going to be looking at, we're not necessarily going to be looking at the whole process leading up to the moment of a transformation, and we're not going to be looking at the whole story, like the ends and where everything goes, but we're looking at those specific moments in the Old Testament where something new takes place, right? We're opening with creation. We'll be in the calling of Samuel as a child, the moment that Nineveh was saved in the book of Jonah. It's a time for new beginnings and all of the potential that those new beginnings contain. And if this is something that you're interested in when you're on YouTube, go ahead and hit the subscribe button now. Every week, as part of the work of worship in the time of sheltering, we post these Sunday videos to explore what the Lord is revealing to us in these hard times. Clicking subscribe, clicking the bell icon, those two things will help make sure that you're connected to us and that you don't miss a single video. Now, normally at this moment, I would be sending it off to the worship team to sing before we get into a passage of scripture and then the message. But we're going to take a week off of that this week. Turns out that you can't just play music with a copyright on your YouTube video without proper accreditation, without there being some consequences. Right now I'm on a YouTube probation while I clean up a few things, and we're changing the way that we present the music moving forward to make sure that we're above board on our presentation. I mean, like, you would think 10 months into this pandemic that there would be no more surprises. We'd be finished with that, but here we are. So instead of a song, here is the scripture to get us to our passage. In the beginning, when God created the heavens and the earth was formless and void, and darkness covered the face of the deep, while a wind from God swept over the face of the waters. Then God said, "Let there be light," and there was light. And God saw that the light was good, and God separated the light from the darkness. God called the light day, and the darkness he called night. And there was evening, and there was morning, the first day. The word of the Lord. Thanks be to God. Such a simple and familiar passage, right? I actually used this passage last year in June. And it was, at that time, similar to now, time of turmoil. George Floyd had just been killed, in the streets the whole week, that I was preparing for that sermon in June. The streets were filled around the world in protest. And apparently, I was stuck looking at the start of all scripture as a part of the lectionary, right? When revolutionary times come up, you want to preach revolutionary things, right? And the first 5 verses of Genesis, they're not all that exciting, right? It's kind of like the thing that we read to kids to teach them about God's power and creativity, the preciousness of life, those kinds of things. And in a time like the one that we find ourselves right now, I also find myself not wanting to preach from the first 5 verses of Genesis again. I mean, like on Wednesday, the news was filled with more hateful images and violence. You keep looking at social media and it's just filled with hate from one side against the other. And right now, it just doesn't feel like the solution is to come together, to sing Kumbaya together, right? So why would we want to read the story of creation again? This week in preparation, I've been doing a lot of reading, like a lot of reading. I started a class yesterday for the latest intensive in this MA cycle that I'm doing. And so I'm doing like cycles of reading and writing. And this time around, it's focused on issues revolving around urban mission, right? This time the focus is leadership and the things Scripture can teach us about leadership. And in the midst of all this reading and writing, there's a theological principle that continues to rise up into my consciousness, and that is a principle called Missio Dei, meaning that it's God's mission that we're on. As I approach this, like I'm not intending to become a missionary in the traditional sense. I don't expect everyone to go pack their bags and go travel off to a far country. And that's because we are being called to recapture a focus on mission that is not separate from who we are in our day-to-day life. Mission is not like a ministry that we support by sending money off to missionaries once a month or like in paying a denominational budget so that somebody else can go do that work. Instead, mission is an essential aspect of identity within any person who calls on the name of the Lord as their Redeemer. If you celebrate the grace of God in your life, you are also called to mission. Big stuff, right? We probably don't say it enough, right? Like you are on mission in your life right now. Even like in this season, if you're sheltering and you haven't seen another person from church or from your family for a long time, your interactions are with delivery people, right? If you rely on the grace of God, you are a person who's on mission. And I get it. That's like a lot to put on you. Like this is a weird time. Half of you are probably still in your pajamas right now watching this video. I'm just going to let you in on something. It's Sunday morning, and during this sheltering time, Sunday mornings, I'm definitely still in my pajamas right now while everybody's watching this. But let me begin relieving you of some things, right? First, when we hear that we're on mission, our first instinct for most of us is to say, I'm not on mission, right? After all, I haven't heard from God about some country that I'm supposed to go to or like about some deprived group that needs my support, right? And you're probably right. You probably haven't heard God speak to you about mission. It's kind of the rare person who has that experience in which the voice of the Lord breaks through all the noise around us, and then they instantly respond. We're going to talk about Samuel. We're going to talk about Jonah, people who just heard the voice of the Father in extraordinary ways. And you probably haven't heard the Lord reveal mission to you like that. And since you haven't heard it, you're probably not feeling up to developing and organizing a mission ministry, whether it's here or there. And listen, I don't blame you. But the Lord is speaking to you about mission. See, here's the thing about creation. God speaks and creation happens. Among the things that I read this week, there's a word that popped up in some of the study. It's bara. Bara, I'm probably butchering this, by the way, but it's a Hebrew word that describes God creating. Only it's not like, kind of a generic creating. It's only used in the Hebrew Bible to describe God's ability to create, right? As in only God could create. God speaks, and the things that only God can create come into being. Missio Dei, the mission of God, God speaks, and the things that only God can create come into being. Now, to relieve some of that pressure, you don't have to come up with your mission project or your mission field, because the mission is not yours, and it never will be. The mission is God's, Missio Dei. But to add some pressure back onto you. Your ears need to be tuned to the voice of the Father in order to hear the voice of the Father speak. Because as we do not listen, we also don't obey. But here's the best part about this. As you learn to listen and as you hear the voice of the Father reveal that Missio Dei, that becomes intimately a part of your identity. When that thing that only God can create comes into being, it will be declared to be good. And don't think of good in the way that like good is just it's okay, right? Like that. When it comes to God, something is either good or it's not good. Either it's right or it's not right. We look at the world around us right now, and it's still, I don't know, it's a dumpster fire, right? Still filled with hate, still filled with a lack of compromise. Instead of asking God why he's allowing these things to pass, this is what I want you to do. I want you to ask God to reveal Missio Dei to you. In this, you can go from being a helpless bystander who can't figure out the developments of the world to someone who is living obediently into the identity voiced by the one true God. So may we not allow the events of the world to pass us by with our mouths, open, wondering how these things could come to pass. They pass sometimes because we don't listen to the Father. So may we listen to the revelation of a new creation. Missio Dei, created in all who receive identity at the voice of the Father.